Everyone talks about how fearless police dogs are, but no one was prepared for what this one did in the final moments of his life. Ranger, the department's legendary K9, lay on the table, barely moving, his body trembling as he fought for air. Moments earlier, the veterinarian had delivered the words that destroyed the officer's world. "It's time. We can't save him." Tears filled the room as the vet stepped forward, syringe in hand. Everyone believed this was truly the end. Then the little girl he had once rescued burst into the room and screamed, "Wait!" The entire room froze. And what happened next left every person breathless. Ranger lifted his paw slowly, shakily, and wrapped it around the girl in one last, desperate hug. You could feel the heartbreak ripple through the room. Even the toughest officers turned their faces away. Unable to watch, the vet stepped closer, confusion flickering across his face. Then, alarm. Something was off. His eyes widened, his voice trembled. Something's happening. This dog is trying to tell us something. What he discovered moments later stunned everyone. Stay with us, because this story will leave you speechless. Before we continue, hit like and subscribe. And tell me, where are you watching from? Comment your country below. I love seeing how far these stories reach. The morning had started like any other at the Brookside Police Department. Soft radio chatter. Half-finished coffee cups. Officers quietly reviewing last night's reports. Everything felt routine until the station doors flew open. Officer Jacobs staggered inside, gasping for breath, his face white as paper. Rangers down. Silence slammed across the room. Every officer looked up at the same time. Even the hum of the computers seemed to vanish. Ranger wasn't just a police dog. He was their hero, their partner, a guardian who had saved more lives than anyone could count. Hearing those words felt like being punched in the chest. Captain Harris shot to his feet, his chair crashing against the floor. What happened? Jacobs swallowed hard. He was tracking a suspect in the woods, and he just collapsed. No sound, no warning. He's barely breathing. They're rushing him to Oak Ridge Veterinary Hospital. A heavy, suffocating stillness filled the room, one that settled deep into their ribs. The officers exchanged looks of disbelief, fear, and grief. Ranger, their strongest, most unstoppable K9. How could he fall like that? Officer Miller slammed a fist against the desk. No, he's tough. This can't be real. But everyone knew Jacobs wouldn't have come running in like that unless it was serious, deadly serious across town. The news hit Lily Parker only minutes later. She was sitting at the kitchen table finishing her homework when her mother answered a call and suddenly covered her mouth, tears filling her eyes. "Lily, it's Ranger." Lily's pencil slipped from her hand. Her heart plummeted. "What happened to him, Mom? What happened?" Her mother's voice trembled. "He collapsed. They're taking him to the hospital." Lily didn't wait to hear anything else. She sprinted to the door, tears already blurring her sight. Ranger wasn't just a dog to her. He was the one who had saved her life months before. The one who slept beside her when nightmares kept her awake. The one who nudged her gently whenever she cried. To her, he was family. Her father grabbed the keys, forcing his voice to stay steady. "Get in. We'll get there in 5 minutes." The drive felt endless. Lily pressed her forehead against the car window, whispering through her tears, "Please be okay. Please. Please be okay." Back at the station, officers gathered their gear and headed toward the hospital too. No one wanted Ranger to face this fight alone. But deep in their hearts, a cold, frightening truth was already settling in. No one knew if Ranger would survive long enough for them to reach him. The sliding doors of Oak Ridge Veterinary Hospital opened with a soft hiss. But the atmosphere inside felt anything but gentle. The lobby was crowded with officers, men and women, who had stared down armed suspects without fear, now standing frozen. Their eyes red, their fists tight, their breaths shallow. Lily stepped through the entrance between her parents, her small fingers gripping her father's coat as she scanned the room. She had never seen so many police officers gathered in one place, and never this silent. It felt like the whole building was holding its breath. Officer Miller saw her first. His face softened instantly. Kneeling down, he opened his arms, and Lily ran straight into them. He pulled her close, his voice trembling. "He's fighting, sweetheart. Ranger's a tough boy." But the shake in his voice told her everything he didn't say. Lily's mother rested a gentle hand on her daughter's shoulder. "Where is he?" she asked quietly. Officer Jacobs pointed toward the hallway. "Room 3. They're trying to stabilize him," the vet said. "He's critical, critical." The word repeated in Lily's mind like a terrible echo that wouldn't stop. They walked down the corridor slowly, each step heavier than the last. The overhead lights buzzed faintly. The sharp scent of disinfectant stung the air. Lily wiped her cheeks with her sleeve. Trying to be brave, trying to be the way Ranger had always taught her to be. But nothing prepared her for what she saw when she reached the doorway. Ranger lay on a cold metal table, his chest rising and falling in shallow, uneven breaths. His once shiny coat looked dull and unkempt. His eyes, half open, seemed unfocused, staring into nothing. A monitor beeped beside him, far slower than it should. A breathing tube ran from his mouth. 2 veterinarians worked urgently around him. "Ranger," Lily whispered. One of his ears twitched barely, but enough to make Lily collapse into her mother's arms, sobbing uncontrollably. Dr. Collins, the head veterinarian, looked up. His expression was heavy with the kind of sorrow that came from years of delivering painful news. He stepped forward, crouching so he was eye level with Lily. "He's very sick," he said softly. "But he knows you're here. That's helping him more than anything we can give him." Lily sniffed and stepped forward until her hands touched the edge of the metal table. "I'm right here, Ranger." "I'm right here," she whispered. The German shepherd let out a faint, broken whine, the first sound he'd made since collapsing. Officers standing in the doorway wiped their eyes. Everyone understood. The same heartbreaking truth. Ranger was holding on. For her, the sight of him lying helpless sent Lily's thoughts spiraling backward. Back to the day everything changed. The day Ranger became more than a police dog. The day he became her hero. It had been a warm autumn afternoon. Lily, just 8 years old, and endlessly curious, had wandered too far from the neighborhood park while chasing a fluttering yellow butterfly. The sunlight filtered through the tall trees, flickering across the trail in long finger-like shadows. Lily didn't notice how strangely quiet everything had become, how the cheerful sounds of families playing in the park had faded far behind her. She also didn't notice the man watching her. He stepped out from behind an old oak tree, his voice warm and falsely gentle. "Hey there, sweetheart. Are you lost?" Lily stopped. Something about the way he smiled felt wrong, too tight, too forced. "I'm going back," she whispered, trying to step around him, but he caught her wrist. Her small gasp vanished into the trees. He yanked her deeper into the forest, his hand squeezing hard enough to bruise. "Quiet," he hissed. "No one can hear you out here, but someone could." Officer Miller and Ranger had been searching nearby for a purse thief for almost an hour. Ranger's nose had been guiding them through the woods, until he suddenly froze. His ears lifted. Every muscle in his body tightened. His tail went rigid. Then he bolted. "Ranger! Ranger, hold up!" Miller shouted, sprinting after him. Ranger didn't stop. He wasn't following the thief anymore. He had sensed something urgent, something awful. He crashed through bushes, dodged fallen branches, tore through tall grass, and burst into a dim clearing. And there she was. The man had one hand clamped over Lily's mouth, dragging her toward a decaying shed. Her eyes were wide with terror, her muffled cries swallowed by the wind. Ranger didn't hesitate. A deep, thunderous growl erupted from his chest, a sound so fierce the man froze mid. Before he could even turn, Ranger launched himself at him. Slamming him to the ground, the man screamed, scrambling backward as Ranger planted himself between Lily and danger, teeth bared, eyes blazing with protective fury. Seconds later, Officer Miller burst into the clearing. "Hands where I can see them," he yelled. The man surrendered instantly. Trembling, Ranger didn't move until Miller cuffed the kidnapper and pulled him away. Only then did Ranger turn. He walked toward Lily slowly, head low, tail lowered with gentle concern. Lily, shaking uncontrollably, crawled to him and threw her arms around his neck. Sobbing into his fur, Ranger leaned into her, licking the tears from her cheeks. Taught from that day forward, Lily never walked anywhere without whispering, "My hero, my Ranger." And now, standing beside his failing body, she felt the same terror she had felt in those woods, but worse. This time, she was terrified of losing him. Dr. Collins pulled off his gloves slowly, the way doctors do when preparing to speak words no one wants to hear. The soft beeping of the heart monitor behind him echoed like a countdown, each sound tightening the knot in Lily's chest. Officers filled the doorway, but no one stepped inside. Even the strongest among the men who had stared down armed criminals looked broken. Some stared at the floor. Others pressed fists against their lips. Not one spoke. Finally, Dr. Collins exhaled. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "Ranger's condition is extremely serious." Lily's breath hitched. Her mother gripped her shoulders tightly. "He's experiencing rapid organ decline." The vet continued, gently. "His temperature won't stabilize. His heart rate keeps dropping. We're doing everything we can, but he isn't responding the way we hoped." Officer Miller's voice cracked. "But what caused it?" "He was fine yesterday." Dr. Collins shook his head. "We're not sure yet. It might be an internal infection, a delayed response to an old injury, or something rare we haven't identified yet," Dr. Collins said quietly. "But whatever it is," he paused, choosing his next words with painful care, "it's advanced. Very advanced." Lily stepped forward. Is he dying?" Her voice was so small it barely existed, but everyone heard it, and the question hit harder than any bullet ever could. Dr. Collins knelt in front of her, emotion shining in his eyes. He had treated Ranger for years, watched him grow, fight, save lives. "Sweetheart," he murmured, "he's fighting harder than any dog I've ever seen. But he needs you to be strong for him right now." Lily tried wiping her tears, but they streamed down anyway. She turned toward Ranger, watching his shallow breaths fog the oxygen mask. Slowly, she reached out and touched his paw. "I'm here," she whispered. "I'm not leaving you." Ranger's eyelids fluttered. His ears twitched at the sound of her voice. A faint, broken whine slipped out weak. But unmistakably, his dots. Several officers turned away, quietly brushing tears from their eyes. Dr. Collins cleared his throat. "We'll give him as much time as we can," he said. "But if his heart rate drops again, we may need to talk about letting him go peacefully." The room swayed. Lily's knees gave out, and her mother caught her just in time. Lily buried her face in her hands, shaking as the truth settled over everyone like a suffocating fog. Ranger might not survive the next hour. For a long moment, Lily stood frozen, staring at him through a blur of tears. Everything around her faded: the footsteps of officers, the hum of medical machines, even her mother's soft words, until all she could hear was Ranger's uneven breathing. She took one unsteady step, then another. The veterinarians exchanged glances, but didn't stop her. Everyone understood this moment wasn't medical, it was human, intimate, spiritual. Ranger needed her. Lily placed her small hands on the edge of the cold metal table. Her fingertips brushed against his first, till warm, but frighteningly limp. Ranger's eyes opened just enough to see her. The effort seemed to drain what little strength he had left, yet when he recognized her, something in his gaze softened. "Hey, boy," Lily whispered, voice trembling. "It's me. I'm right here." Ranger let out a fragile, broken exhale. It wasn't a whine. It wasn't a bark. It was the sound of a warrior acknowledging the person he loved most. Lily reached into her pocket and pulled out a small pink hair ribbon, the one Ranger always tried to steal during playtime. She placed it gently against his paw. "Do you remember this?" she whispered, forcing a tiny, shaky smile. "You used to snatch it from me every single day." His ear twitched just barely. She swallowed hard. "I know you're tired," she said softly. "I know everything hurts." With trembling fingers, she brushed a tear from Ranger's face. "And if you have to go," Lily whispered, voice cracking, "I want you to know you were the best friend I ever had." A choked sob slipped out before she could stop it. Lily leaned her forehead gently against Ranger's, whispering through trembling breaths, "Thank you for saving my life. Thank you for protecting me. Thank you for being my hero." Behind her, Officer Miller pressed a hand over his mouth and turned away, his shoulders shaking. Another officer brushed tears from his eyes. Even Dr. Collins paused mid-task, pretending to adjust a machine so no one would notice the wetness gathering in his own. "Can you?" Lily's voice wavered. She swallowed hard. "Can you hug me one last time, please?" She reached for Ranger's paw, lifting it carefully with both hands. It felt heavier than before, weak, limp, drained of strength. But when she guided it toward her shoulder, Ranger tried. His muscles twitched. His claws scraped faintly against the metal table. His leg quivered as he fought to lift it. It wasn't enough to reach her, but it was enough to show he was still trying for her. Lily leaned in closer, allowing his paw to rest against her arm. "It's okay," she whispered, tears slipping down her cheeks. "You don't have to do it alone. I'll help you." Ranger's eyes drifted shut, his breathing ragged, as though he was gathering the last pieces of strength hidden somewhere deep inside his failing body. His fight wasn't over yet. For several long seconds, the room fell silent, so silent that the faint ticking of the wall clock echoed like a countdown. Each second marked the fading strength of the dog they all loved. Lily stood there, holding his paw against her arm, her tears falling onto his fur. She wasn't crying loudly. Her grief was too heavy, too deep for that. Instead, she trembled softly, whispering his name like a fragile prayer. "Ranger, please." Dr. Collins checked the monitor. Ranger's heart rate dipped again. Officers shifted anxiously, boots scraping the floor. Someone whispered, barely audible, "Come on, buddy." Then Ranger's ear twitched. Slowly, painfully, his eyes opened. They were cloudy, unfocused, but they scanned the room until they landed on her. Lily, his girl, his reason for every mission, every chase, every breath. A quiet rumble vibrated in his throat. It wasn't a growl or a sound of distress. It was pure recognition. Pure love. "Ranger," Lily whispered, leaning closer. What happened next made every adult in the room gasp. Ranger tried once more. His paw jerked just barely, but the intention was unmistakable. His muscles shook like fragile wires about to snap. His body trembled under the weight of the effort. But still, he pushed. He pushed because she'd asked, because she needed him, because she was the little girl whose tears he'd licked away in the woods, the girl whose attacker he had fought off without hesitation, the girl he had silently promised to protect until his final heartbeat. Lily helped lift his paw higher. With one final surge of strength, Ranger's leg wrapped around her small shoulders. He hugged her. A tiny, broken whimper fell from Lily's lips as she leaned into him, wrapping both arms around his neck. "It's okay," she whispered, her voice splintering. "It's okay. I've got you. You're safe. I'm right here." Ranger's breathing stuttered. His nose brushed softly against her cheek. A single tear slid from the corner of his eye. Shining under the fluorescent light, Officer Miller pressed a hand to his heart as tears streamed down his face. "Oh God," he whispered, "he's saying goodbye." Dr. Collins blinked rapidly, pretending to clean his glasses just so no one would see the shine of tears gathering in his eyes. A young officer stepped out into the hallway, unable to handle the sight any longer. But no matter how painful the moment was, no one stayed away for long. Because this wasn't just a dog hugging a child, it was a final vow. A loyal soldier, giving the last of his strength to the person he loved more than life itself. The hug lasted only seconds, but it felt timeless, beautiful, and heartbreaking all at once. When Ranger's paw finally slid off Lily's shoulder and dropped limply onto the table, she gasped. "Ranger?" she whispered desperately. "Ranger, please. Stay with me. Stay." The monitor stuttered with uneven beeps. His breaths came slower and slower. Every person in the room knew the truth. That hug might have been his last act. Chill settled over the room, colder than the metal table, colder than the harsh fluorescent lights above. Lily remained beside him, her hand resting gently on his paw, as though holding him could keep him tethered to the world. Officers lined the doorway like silent statues, grieving, powerless. Dr. Collins checked the screen again. Ranger's heart rate had dropped to a fragile, dangerous crawl. The beeps echoed farther apart, weaker each time. The vet exhaled deeply, then turned toward the small metal tray beside him. On it lay a single syringe, clear liquid. Thin needle, undeniable truth. Lily saw it. Everyone saw it. The vet hesitated before lifting it, his hands trembling slightly despite decades of experience. "This part," he whispered, voice cracking, "I never get used to." The room was so silent that everyone heard him. Lily's mother wrapped her arms around her, but Lily shook her free, stepping forward with shaking limbs. "No, please. Isn't there anything else? Anything at all?" Dr. Collins knelt in front of her, heartbreak written across his face. "Sweetheart, if Ranger keeps going like this, he'll be in pain. A lot of pain. Helping him rest would be the kindest thing we can do." "But he hugged me," Lily cried. "He tried. Doesn't that mean he wants to stay?" The vet's voice broke. "He loves you more than anything. But his body is shutting down." Behind them, Officer Miller clenched his teeth as tears rolled freely down his face. "If there were another option," he whispered, "we'd take it in a heartbeat." Dr. Collins rose, with the syringe in hand. Each step toward the table felt heavier than the last. He approached Ranger slowly, as though every inch he moved carried the weight of the entire room. Lily pressed her forehead against Ranger's once more, whispering through her sobs, "I love you. Thank you for everything. If you need to rest, it's okay. I'll be okay. I promise." The monitor beeped faintly. Ranger's chest rose. Fell. Barely. The vet positioned the needle near his leg, pausing for a long, agonizing moment. His hand trembled. "Goodbye, boy," he whispered. The entire room held its breath. Officers, nurses, parents, even the walls felt frozen in place. But just as the needle began to descend toward Ranger's skin, something changed. A sound, a twitch, a movement so slight, yet so impossible that it stopped the vet's hand mid-air. For a full heartbeat. No one understood. Dr. Collins froze, syringe suspended inches above Ranger's leg. His eyes narrowed. His breath hitched. Officers leaned forward, tense and wide-eyed. Lily lifted her head, tears still clinging to her cheeks. What was that? She whispered. Ranger's leg twitched again. But this time it wasn't the fading tremor of a dying body. It was sharp, intentional, a response. Dr. Collins took a step back, stunned. Hold on. Everyone, don't move. The room fell silent the instant Dr. Collins spoke. He leaned in close to Ranger's chest, resting a steady hand over the dog's ribcage. The seconds dragged out painfully, each one stretching longer than the last. Ranger's breathing, which had been fading into shallow, irregular gasps, suddenly changed. Not different. Uneven in a way that didn't match the steady decline everyone had braced for. What is it? Officer Miller asked, his voice breaking. Dr. Collins didn't answer. He adjusted the oxygen mask, checked Ranger's gums, then his pupils. His brow tightened. Something wasn't lining up. The drop in Ranger's condition had been too fast. Too sharp as if someone had flipped a switch. Then Ranger let out a sound. A low, strained grunt, not of agony, but discomfort. As though something inside him was pushing for release. His body tensed briefly. Then loosened again. Lily gasped. Ranger. Ranger, can you hear me? His ear twitched clearly this time. The vet's eyes widened. He spun toward the monitor, adjusting the sensors with quick, precise motions. This doesn't look like typical organ failure, he muttered under his breath. These fluctuations, this pattern, it's not what we see at the end. Officer Jacobs stepped closer. Doc, what are you saying? I'm saying something is interfering with his system, Dr. Collins replied sharply. Something we haven't caught yet. He set the syringe back on the tray, his hands trembling. Not from grief now, but from adrenaline. I need to run an emergency scan. Right now. Lily's mother covered her mouth, eyes widening. Officers traded confused looks, a flicker of hope breaking through the sorrow. Lily gripped Ranger's paw tightly. Is he still dying? She whispered. Dr. Collins met her gaze, and his voice shifted, still serious, but no longer resigned. I don't know, he said honestly. But after that reaction, I'm not giving up. 2 nurses rushed in with a portable scanner. The room transformed instantly, grief replaced with urgent purpose. The heavy air that had smothered everyone moments before sparked with something. New. Possibility. As the nurses lifted Ranger gently into position, Lily whispered into his ear, I knew you weren't done fighting. The scanner beeped to life, casting a cold glow over Ranger's limp form. The nurses worked fast, sliding the device beneath him while Dr. Collins hovered beside them. His eyes glued to the monitor as though he had only seconds to solve an impossible puzzle. The officers crowded closer, not frozen anymore, but tight with nervous anticipation. The room trembled on the razor's edge between hope and fear. Lily stood on her toes, still holding Ranger's paw. Please find something, she murmured. Dr. Collins swallowed hard. Starting scan. A low hum filled the air as the machine vibrated softly beneath the table. Blurry shapes formed on the screen, sharpening slowly into the grayscale map of Ranger's insides. For a few moments, Dr. Collins's expression stayed neutral. Then, suddenly, his eyes widened. He leaned in, adjusting the angle, reviewing the image again and again. His breathing deepened, his chest rising faster. The color drained from his face, not from fear, but from shock. "What is it?" Officer Miller asked urgently. Dr. Collins didn't reply at first. His fingers raced across the controls, switching views, zooming in, analyzing every pixel. His pulse pounded so loudly he could hear it over the scanner. Finally, he exhaled sharply. "Oh, my God." Lily squeezed Ranger's paw so tight her knuckles turned white. What is it? Is he going to be okay?" Dr. Collins looked in for the first time since Ranger collapsed. There was something new in his eyes. "Hope, double quotes everyone," he said. Pointing at the screen, "Take a look." Officers surged forward. Lily's parents stepped beside her. Even the nurses leaned in. The scan revealed a shadowy, uneven dark mass pressing against Ranger's diaphragm, not a tumor, not fluid, something entirely different. That's not organ failure," Dr. Collins said, his voice trembling. "It's an obstruction." Officer Jacobs stared. "An obstruction as in something stuck inside him?" "Yes," the vet replied quickly. "A foreign object. Something that's been lodged there for a while. Maybe from a mission, a fight, or debris." He swallowed. He traced the dark outline on the screen, inhaling sharply. "It's pressing against his nerves and choking off his ability to breathe. That's why his vitals were crashing," Dr. Collins explained. Lily's mother gasped. "So, he's not actually dying?" Dr. Collins lifted a steady hand. "Let me be clear, he's still in critical shape. Very critical." Then he looked back at the screen, almost stunned. "But this is treatable. If we remove the obstruction in time, he has a real chance." The room erupted in stunned murmurs. Officer Miller stumbled backward, both hands covering his face as tears poured through his fingers this time. Tears of pure relief. Lily pressed her palms to her mouth, her voice trembling. "You can help him. You can really help him." Dr. Collins knelt to meet her at eye level. "I can try," he said softly. "And I promise you, Lily, I'm going to fight for him with everything I have." A nurse stepped forward. "Prep the surgical room." "Right away," Dr. Collins replied. Officers straightened their posture. The crushing grief that had suffocated the room only minutes earlier lifted like fog in morning sunlight as nurses carefully lifted Ranger for emergency surgery. Lily leaned close to his ear. "You held on long enough for them to see," she whispered. "You're so brave. Don't stop fighting, okay?" Ranger's ear twitched stronger than before. It was all she needed. The surgical room lights flicked on, washing the space in a cold, sterile glow. Stainless steel instruments reflected the brightness as machines hummed quietly. Nurses moved with practiced speed, laying out tools, adjusting monitors, and preparing the table. The doors swung open, and Dr. Collins entered with the kind of focused determination reserved only for true life or death moments, because that's exactly what this was. Ranger lay unconscious on the operating table, his chest lifting in shallow, rhythmic breaths. Lily stood outside the glass viewing window with her parents and nearly the entire police department behind her. Everyone watched with a mixture of fear and fragile hope, her small hands pressed against the glass, her breath fogging a little circle as she whispered prayers only Ranger could understand. Inside, Dr. Collins lowered the surgical lights, heart rate unstable but holding. A nurse reported. "Good," he said. "We're starting." The first incision was tiny but precise. Silence filled the room, broken only by the steady beep of the heart monitor and the low hum of machinery. Dr. Collins worked through layers of tissue with the delicate skill of someone handling a priceless artifact. Every movement was careful, controlled. Then he froze. "There it is," he breathed. The nurses leaned in. Outside, Officer Miller pressed closer to the glass, eyes wide. Embedded near Ranger's diaphragm was a jagged piece of metal, bigger than a bottle cap, darkened with age and where it looked like shrapnel, maybe from a broken fence. Debris, or even a criminal's weapon. Whatever its origin, it had been inside Ranger for weeks, maybe months. But how had it gone unnoticed? And why was it flaring now? Dr. Collins gently touched the embedded fragment. Instantly, Ranger's vitals dipped sharply, then steadied again. "This is the culprit," Dr. Collins said. Every breath he took, every step he made, this thing was cutting deeper. It caused inflammation, swelling, nerve pressure. Everything that brought him here today. The nurse drew in a sharp breath. How was he even functioning like this? "Because he's Ranger," Officer Jacobs whispered from behind the glass. "He doesn't quit." Dr. Collins nodded. He must have taken this hit while on duty, and just kept working, kept pushing, until his body couldn't compensate anymore. Lily's father swallowed hard, so he collapsed because his body finally couldn't handle the internal damage. "That's right," the vet confirmed. "But the good news is we can remove it." It was like the entire room exhaled at the same time, with careful precision. Dr. Collins began working to free the embedded shard. The moment it shifted even slightly, Ranger's vitals spiked and dipped chaotically. Nurses hovered with needles and emergency meds at the ready. "Steady, buddy. Steady," the vet murmured, with one final careful pull. The metal fragment slipped free. The monitor jumped, then settled, into a steadier rhythm. Gasps of relief erupted around the room. Outside the glass, officers hugged each other, wiping tears from their faces. Lily dropped to her knees, crying, but this time from hope, not heartbreak. Dr. Collins held up the blood-stained shard with trembling fingers. This is what nearly took him from us," he said softly. Then he looked at Ranger with a gentleness that filled the room. "And he still fought through it. Harder than any dog I've ever treated." But the surgery wasn't finished. Not yet. Ranger's body lay limp beneath the harsh surgical light tubes and wires, stretching across his fur like delicate lifelines. The heart monitor blipped erratically, every rise and fall tightening the tension in the room. Dr. Collins didn't look away from the screen for even a heartbeat. "Pressure is dropping again," a nurse called out, voice tight. "Get a second saline line in," Dr. Collins ordered, firm but urgent. "We need circulation stable, or his organs will start shutting down." Outside the window, Lily stood with her hands pressed to her chest, heart pounding louder than the monitors. Her father wrapped an arm around her, but she barely noticed. She couldn't look away. She wouldn't look away. Ranger needed her strength. She had to hold on the way he always did. Inside, a nurse shouted, "He's going into shock." Dr. Collins acted instantly. "Warm fluids now. Increase oxygen. Come on, Ranger. Stay with us." The next moments blurred, gloves snapping, machines humming, nurses moving with practiced urgency. It felt like the entire world was holding its breath, waiting to see which direction fate would lean. Ranger's vitals dipped. Even further, Officer Miller staggered back from the window. "No. No. Come on, boy. Not now. Don't you dare give up." Lily pressed her palms to the glass, tears dripping silently. "Fight, Ranger, please. Fight." Her voice couldn't reach him, but her love did. Somehow, impossibly, Ranger's ear twitched. A tiny flicker. Barely a movement, but enough to make Dr. Collins jerk his head up. "There," he whispered. "He's responding. Keep warming him. Keep massaging the tissue. He's fighting." Minutes crawled by like hours. The heart monitor spiked wildly, then evened out, then dipped again. Each swing made Lily gasp. her small body shaking uncontrollably. "His heart's too weak," a nurse murmured. "No," Dr. Collins replied sharply, almost fiercely. "Not this dog. Not today. Charge the stabilizer, we're bringing him back." The machine lit up with a low hum. Soft stabilizing pads were placed over Ranger's chest, not enough to shock him, but enough to jump-start the rhythm. "Ready?" a nurse said. "Now," Dr. Collins commanded. A pulse of energy flowed through Ranger's body. The monitor froze. Everyone held there. Breath. Then dash beep. 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 Steadier. Stronger. A wave of relief crashed through the operating room. Officers outside gasped in unison. Lily collapsed into her mother's arms, sobbing with hope. Ranger wasn't safe yet, but he was still fighting, and the battle wasn't over. The operating room pulsed with urgency now. It felt like a battlefield, bright lights, blazing gloves snapping, orders firing back and forth with sharp intensity. Ranger lay at the center of it all, chest rising in fragile whispered breaths. Vitals are climbing, still unstable, though, a nurse said. Dr. Collins didn't look up. Sweat gathered on his forehead, but his hands stayed steady as stone. "We need to reduce the swelling. Prepped the anti-inflammatory drip." "On it," another nurse replied. Already moving outside the glass window. The hallway was filled with officers, men and women, who had stared danger in the face countless times, now praying for a dog who had saved them all. Now, every single one of those seasoned officers stood with trembling hands, tear-streaked faces, and jaws clenched so tight they ached. They had faced countless dangers, but nothing had left them feeling this helpless. Lily stood at the front of them all. Her small palms stayed pressed flat against the glass, her forehead resting just below her hands. She whispered constantly fragile words that felt like tiny threads she was weaving between herself and Ranger to keep him alive. "You can do this. You're so brave. Please don't go. I need you." Her voice broke, cracked, wavered, but never once stopped. Inside the operating room, Dr. Collins carefully lifted aside a section of tissue, assessing the extensive damage left by the metal shard. "He's lost too much blood," he muttered. "Start another transfusion." "Yes, doctor," the nurse answered quickly. Another nurse wiped fluid from the wound. "Swelling is down, but his temperature is falling. Increase external heat," Dr. Collins ordered. "More blankets. Boost for flow." The team moved faster than they ever had. This wasn't just a medical procedure. Now it was heart, grit, and the silent promise they made the moment Ranger collapsed. They were not losing him. Not today. Ranger's body twitched weakly, almost like he was responding to their voices. His paw shifted. His ear flicked. His chest rose in a tiny, trembling breath. "He's trying," a nurse whispered in awe. "He's really trying." Dr. Collins bent closer. "That's it, boy. Stay with me." Suddenly, the monitor spiked erratically. High, low, high again. Lily gasped, her hands flattening harder against the glass. "Ranger." Her father reached for her, but she stepped forward again, eyes locked on the slight rise and fall of Ranger's chest. Inside, Dr. Collins barked, "Stabilize his heart rhythm. Push another dose now." A wave of panic rippled through the room, but the vet's steady commands guided the team like a conductor leading controlled chaos. Medication flowed. Machines, HUMMED. And Ranger's heart fought. Seconds stretched into unbearable minutes. Then, slowly, the violent peaks on the monitor softened. The jagged dips leveled out. The beeping grew steadier, stronger. A nurse covered her mouth. "He's stabilizing," she breathed. Dr. Collins sagged in relief, shoulders dropping. Good boy. Good, strong boy. Outside the window, Lily's knees gave out. Officer Miller caught her gently, tears falling freely. Ranger wasn't safe yet, but for the first time since he collapsed. He wasn't dying. He was fighting harder than ever, and he was finally winning. The hallway outside the surgery room grew so quiet, Lily could hear her own shaky breaths echo inside her chest. Officers stood shoulder to shoulder behind her, a silent wall of uniforms. No one spoke. No one moved. They waited locked inside the longest stretch of time they'd ever endured. Inside the room, one by one, the surgical lights dimmed. A shadow shifted behind the frosted window. Then the door opened. Dr. Collins stepped out slowly, peeling off his gloves. His face was unreadable calm, exhausted, drained, and that expression made Lily's stomach drop. Her fingers tightened around her mother's hand until her knuckles paled. "Doctor," she whispered. "Is he?" For a heartbeat, Dr. Collins didn't answer. He looked at the officers, every one of them, bracing for the worst. Then he smiled. Not a wide smile. Not triumphant. A soft, emotional, hope-filled smile. The kind that breathes life back into a room. "He made it," he said quietly. The hallway erupted. Officer Miller covered his face. Shaking with relief, Jacobs let out a long exhale. Someone whispered, "Thank God." Another punched the air in silent triumph. Some officers cried openly, not bothering to hide it. But Lily didn't move. She just stared at Dr. Collins in stunned silence, unable to believe she'd truly heard those words. He's alive," Lily whispered, barely able to form the words. Dr. Collins knelt in front of her, his voice soft but filled with wonder. "Yes, sweetheart. He's not fully out of danger yet. He'll need rest, close monitoring. But he made it. He survived the surgery. He fought harder than any dog I've ever treated." Lily's lip trembled. She covered her mouth as tears streamed down her face. Her parents sank to their knees beside her, wrapping her in their arms as she cried, not from grief, but from overwhelming relief. Can I see him?" she managed between sobs. Dr. Collins nodded. "In a few minutes. He's waking up slowly, but he's stable enough now. You'll be able to be with him soon." Officer Miller stepped forward, voice thick with emotion. "Doc, thank you. Truly, you saved a member of our family." Dr. Collins shook his head gently. "No, Ranger saved himself. I just helped him finish the fight." The officers nodded, wiping at their eyes. Pride warmed the hallway like sunlight breaking through clouds. A nurse hurried over. "Dr. Ranger's heart rhythm is steady. He's responding as the sedative wears off." "Good," Dr. Collins said. "Let's get Lily ready to see him." Lily stood on shaky legs. Instantly, the officers parted, forming a respectful path just for her, a corridor lined with gratitude, admiration, and awe. She looked at the door. Ranger was behind. Only minutes ago, she believed she had lost him forever. Now she was walking toward him. Again, every step felt like emerging from the darkest night into morning light. The recovery room was warm and dimly lit, calm and quiet compared to the frantic chaos of surgery. Machines beeped softly in steady rhythms. Ranger lay on a padded table wrapped in blankets, breathing evenly. A small bandage covered his surgical site. His fur had been cleaned. He looked fragile, but peaceful. A nurse opened the door gently. "Lily, you can come in now." Her footsteps echoed softly like the heartbeat of someone trying to stay strong. Officers remained outside, giving her space. Her parents followed slowly, wiping fresh tears from their eyes. When Lily saw Ranger, she stopped breathing for a moment. There he was, her hero, her guardian, her best friend, alive. She stepped toward him carefully. afraid that if she blinked, he might vanish. When she reached his side, she placed a trembling hand on his paw. "Ranger?" she whispered. His ear twitched. Her heart nearly exploded. "Ranger, it's me. It's Lily. I'm right here." His eyes fluttered twice. Then, fighting through layers of deep exhaustion, he slowly opened them, glazed, weak but shining with something unmistakable. "Recognition." Lily gasped, covering her mouth as tears poured down her cheeks. "You came back," she breathed. "You really came back." Ranger shifted his paw just an inch, but enough to touch her fingers. Lily immediately clasped it with both hands and kissed it gently. "I love you so much," she whispered. "I'm so proud of you." His tail gave a tiny, soft thump against the blanket. It was enough to send the entire police hallway into tears. Lily leaned closer, resting her forehead against his. "You don't have to be strong anymore," she murmured. "You just have to heal. I'll stay with you all night. I promise." Ranger let out a slow breath, a sigh that sounded almost like relief. His eyes drifted shut again, not out of weakness, but out of calm, out of peace. Outside the room, Officer Miller wiped his cheeks and whispered to the others, "Someone record this. The world needs to see what love really looks like." A nurse quietly raised her phone, hitting the record button with trembling fingers. Meanwhile, Lily gently stroked Ranger's fur, humming the soft lullaby she used to sing to herself whenever she was afraid. Tonight, she sang it for him. Ranger's breathing grew deeper, steady, calm, strong. The battle he'd fought so fiercely was finally over. Their reunion was complete, and the image of a recovering police dog resting, his paw in the tiny hands of the girl he'd nearly died to protect, would soon become one of the most heart-melting stories anyone had ever seen. The next morning, sunlight filtered through the hospital blinds, painting warm golden stripes across the recovery room floor. Ranger rested quietly, his breaths even and smooth, steadier than they had been in days. His tail twitched gently now and then, especially when Lily whispered to him or ran her fingers through his fur. Word had already spread throughout the town. By early morning, the waiting area was filled with officers, families, and strangers who had heard the story. Many held homemade posters, cards, or drawings. Children had sketched pictures of Ranger wearing a superhero cape. Adults had written letters thanking him for his courage. Someone had even arranged a bouquet of roses in the shape of a paw and placed it near the door. Inside the room, Lily sat cross-legged on a chair beside him. Her eyes were still swollen from hours of crying. But now those tears had been replaced by something brighter. Hope. Her father stepped into the room holding a folded piece of paper. "Sweetheart," he said gently, "the department wanted you to see this first." Lily unfolded it with care. It was a stamped, framed in bright gold lettering, "Honorary Medal of Bravery, Ranger, K9 Hero." Lily's chin quivered. "He deserves it," she whispered, tracing her fingers along Ranger's cheek. "He deserves everything." Outside the room, the officers gathered tightly. Officer Miller stepped forward, clearing his throat. His voice carried the weight of pride, gratitude, and the love every officer felt for the dog who had saved one of their own. "Ranger didn't just save a little girl," he said. "He saved all of us. He reminded us what courage looks like, what loyalty feels like, and what it means to love without hesitation." A wave of murmured agreement rippled through the crowd. "From today onward," Miller continued, "Ranger will be honored as a hero across this entire department. His story will be taught to new recruits. His bravery will be remembered for generations." Inside the recovery room, Lily leaned forward and pressed a gentle kiss to Ranger's forehead. "Did you hear that?" she whispered, smiling softly. "You're a legend now. Ranger's eyes fluttered open for a brief moment, just long enough to give her a weak but warm gaze. A gaze filled with everything he couldn't say in words. Love, gratitude, and the quiet promise that he'd always be by her side. Lily rested her head near his, whispering, "You're not just a police dog. You're my hero, my angel, my best friend." And in that warm golden moment, while the world outside buzzed with celebration, Ranger released a gentle sigh. Not of pain, of peace, of relief, a silent message that everyone who knew him understood. Love deeply, protect fiercely, and never stop fighting for the ones who need you most. Ranger had faced death, and and his story would inspire millions if Ranger's fight touched your heart. Let us know in the comments. Hit like to honor every brave canine who protects us. And don't forget to subscribe for more true stories of courage, love, and second chances.